is your fate. Yes. Ginger Runner. What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry here for another GingerRunner.com review. Not one, but three, all from Newton. Yeah. You are currently watching the review of the Newton Fate. That's brought us together. Yeah. But perhaps you want to watch one of the other two reviews that I'm posting today from Newton. You can do that. All you have to do is click one of the two shoes that you would rather watch, the Newton Aha, or the Newton Energy NR2. Go ahead and take your pick. I'll give you a couple seconds. All right, the Newton Fate. Take a look at this yellow beast of a shoe. Now, Newton has come out with a whole variety of new shoes, all incorporating the new 5-lug system, which I think is awesome, but it also incorporates their new number grading system, which is called P.O.P, or point of power, and it's on a scale of 1 to 3. 3 being the most subtle of lugs, for those of you who might just be transitioning into Newtons, and 1 being the most pronounced lugs for those who are used to running in Newtons and really like that lug experience. This shoe is a P.O.P 2, so it's supposed to come right in the middle. Now, the first question in your head might be, do you really notice a difference between a P.O.P 1, a P.O.P 2, and a P.O.P 3? If you go watch my Aha review, you'll hear that I actually think those lugs are fairly subtle, and it's a great shoe to transition right into Newton. These lugs, yes, are a little bit more pronounced than the Aha or the Energy NR, but I still think they're super comfortable. I did have issues with some of the most recent P.O.P 1 shoes. I felt that the lugs were super intense and took a lot of adaptation, which is totally normal in Newtons. The P.O.P 2 and P.O.P 3 lugs will be a little bit more subtle, easier to adapt into. However, you definitely want to take your time transitioning into a Newton shoe. Otherwise, it'll take its toll on your calves. Trust. As far as classifications of these shoes, they do all kind of blend together as far as what each shoe can do for you. I'm gonna call this the transitional responsive racer. I think it's definitely a more tightly bound beast. It's a little bit more responsive. The EVA is a little bit tighter. It's not nearly as flexible as some of the other shoes. And yes, the lugs are a little bit more pronounced. So I definitely consider this a little bit more of a racing shoe as compared to the Aha or Energy NR, which is more of a trainer. But all shoes can be used for races of all distances, so long as you are adapted to them and enjoy the ride. In this case, it's not my favorite Newton, and I'll get to why specifically in today's review, so let's just get on with it. Things that I like about the Newton Fate. Responsive. Now, I've had problems with other shoes being too responsive. In this case, I get it. I get where they're coming from. It's not quite as flexible. The EVA feels a little bit more dense. The lugs don't move quite as easily, even though I put a number of miles in these shoes. I haven't really broken in, but it hasn't hampered the experience. I still think it makes a good race shoe for those of you who are looking for a responsive Newton. The lug system. Now, with all the Newtons, of course I like the lug system. I think it's a unique piece of technology that they're incorporating into all of their shoes. In this case, I feel like these lugs are super tight. These lugs do move. I don't think it's quite the spring amount that you get out of the Newton distance. And it's not quite as subtle as the Aha or the Energy NR2, but I still like this lug system. It's not too pronounced. Just right. The upper. I'm really digging the upper of these new Newton shoes. I think they're doing some really cool stuff with this fabric, the dual layer fabric, the lacing, the seamless upper. It's great. Durability, I gotta give them some props here. The durability on all these shoes, including the Newton Fate, is really dialed. I think you could get a lot of really good miles in these shoes. As it's always been with Newtons, the lugs tend to wear down on the slower side. I'm definitely seeing wear in this shoe after 30-40 miles, but nowhere near as much as I've seen in other shoes. And they've always said that Newtons should last you anywhere from 500 to 1,000 miles. That will definitely be dependent on how good your form is and what your gait is like. I do have a number of dislikes. Of the 3 shoes, this is definitely one of the heavier ones. It's over 8 ounces, about 8.5 ounces. It's not too heavy, but it's definitely noticeable. You notice a lot of the weight coming to you at the heel, and that I believe is because of the outsole that they incorporated back here. It's just heavy. It's a nice big gob of heavy rubber back there. So the shoe doesn't necessarily feel balanced. Too responsive? Yes, I definitely think the responsiveness of the shoe is a key like, but I also think it could be a little too responsive, a little too stiff. It's definitely venturing away from the traditional Newton that I'm used to, but it's definitely gonna be an acquired taste, so I would encourage you to try the shoe out before you just make a blind purchase. Stiff. As I mentioned, the shoe is stiffer than other Newtons. I know a lot of runners that would love that. In my case, I like a shoe to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more pliable with my feet. So yeah. And finally, I mentioned it briefly, heel scuffing. The weight in the heel, the big amount of outsole rubber on the heel seems to force my heel to drag a little bit on my stride. It's not a terrible thing, it's not messing things up, but I'm really curious why it's happening in this shoe and not the other Newtons that I'm reviewing today. So be aware of that. And that, my friends, is actually it for dislikes. So as you can see, this shoe kind of falls in the middle as far as likes, dislikes for me. Of the 3 Newtons that I'm reviewing today, it is not my favorite. And it's an interesting model to add to the Newton lineup, so I encourage you to try all of them before you make your decision, because they are all a little bit different, even though I feel like the number of models they now have is beginning to cannibalize on each other because the shoes still have a lot of similarities, especially with the lug system. It could get confusing from a consumer standpoint, so make sure you try them all on and experience the differences for yourself. Don't get confused, get educated. But that's it, I should move on to the points. Quality, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5. I think the new Newtons definitely have quality going for them. The uppers are great, the lugs don't wear down, these shoes do take break-in periods, so know that going into it. And your body will need to adapt to them, but I think the quality of the shoes themselves is pretty damn good, so 4 out of 5. Comfort, this is a borderline 3 for me, I'll give it 4 out of 5. Not the most comfortable Newton, however, there is a place for it in someone's library. Library? Shoebrary? Price, 3 out of 5. At $129, it is the most expensive Newton that I'm reviewing today. Not the most expensive Newton out there, but it's still a very expensive shoe that in my mind doesn't necessarily add much benefit over purchasing a $30 cheaper version in the AHA. So I gotta mark them down for that. And finally, looks. I dig them. I think they're a pretty good looking shoe. 4 out of 5. The other color option, which is the stability version, but it doesn't really add much in the way of stability, is the Kismet, and that is green, and I think that's also pretty cool. But 4 out of 5, the looks are good. That brings our grand total to 15 out of 20. Lowest score I'm gonna be giving on any of the reviews today, spoilers. It's a good shoe, worth a shot if you're into that more responsive, speedier ride. So give it a look. And if you wanna watch the other reviews that I posted today, all you have to do is click one of the 2 shoes. We have the Energy NR2 and the Newton AHA. Go ahead and click either one of those. 3, 2, 1. So that is it for today's review. Let me know in the comments below, have you run in the Newton Fate and what do you think about it? Do you like it? Cool, good story. If you liked the review, like, favorite, share, and subscribe to this channel, youtube.com/thegingerrunner. Of course, I'm on all the social networks, over on Twitter @thegingerrunner, Facebook, facebook.com/thegingerrunner, over on Instagram, it's @EthanNewberry, of course, gingerrunner.com. I'm also here every single Monday doing live shows at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and bringing on guests, talking running, talking endurance, all sorts of things, and I answer your questions live on air. It's also in podcast form, but just come watch the live show because it's totally worth it. I hope you guys are getting out there, training hard, racing hard, a part of the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next time. Where's my shoe to do this?